Hi guys, bit of a different one. This episode, I have a tournament in no time whatsoever. It's on the 31st of this month, so literally like almost a couple of weeks away, and I have to get it done in time. So we are going to cover a couple of things. So what is involved in going to a tournament, what's involved in prepping an army, tournament do's and don'ts. Don't worry if you've never been to one, you will either probably find this fairly interesting or you'll get some good information if you'd like to consider going to one yourself at some point. If I don't answer any of the questions that people may have, do pop them below. We'll get you sorted. So what is a tournament? Sometimes they're called GTs, Grand Tournaments. A tournament is just a group of people attending an organized gaming event, at least in this context. It sounds like we should be jousting or something. There will be no jousting or duels or anything of that matter. And basically winners play winners. It's a Swiss chess tournament, gaming tournament, and a winner will be declared at the end. But it's not all about the gaming. There will be like best painted, maybe coolest army, voted for by players sometimes, stuff like that. And generally it's just a nice excuse to get together with some mates and have some fun and play some games. How do you pick an army? Pretty easy for me, this one, just whatever is coolest. From a gaming perspective and from a painting perspective, if you really like dragons, get them in the list. If you really like, hordes of infantry, get them in the list. And if you like playing a fast army, you can play a fast army. If you like playing a slow army, you can play a slow army, etc. So just whatever you think is the coolest for you. That's how I approach it anyway. And that can be anything. It might just be, like literally what is the minimum amount of models that I could have in an army. That's what I'm doing. Or I really like elite armored troops. Or something like that. So yeah, whatever you think is the coolest is definitely the way to go, because then you'll be proud of it and care about how it does. And that's, I think, journey over destination. That's what I always go for. Does it have to be good, gaming wise? Does it have to be a competitive army? Absolutely not. Do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And I've been to a lot of events. It really does not matter. If you head there and you've got the fluffiest themed army that is awful, you're still going to have a great time. You just set your expectations at the beginning of the event. Equally, if you've gone with, like a really honed cutting edge army that you've practiced with for a year, then you've set your expectations on a different level. So plenty of people go to tournaments with different things in mind. That does not mean that one side isn't going to like the other or isn't going to enjoy playing the other. At the end of any game, you can ask your opponent what you should have done differently, what you could have done differently, have a chat with them, tell them you like their army, that type of thing, go for a beer. Whatever is your bag, just go for it. It really doesn't matter. It's all about having fun. Also, as far as that goes, one of my favorite things about events is you often, 3 games in out of 5, you might be like, right, next event, I now know what I'm doing. And I like that kind of evolution of a list or an army or whatever. Gives you an excuse to paint some different stuff or have a fiddle or nerd out on exactly what you can fit in, all fun and games. Does your painting have to be amazing? Does it have to be A1 painting? You absolutely do not have to have an award-winning army or, an amazing army by any stretch of your imagination. 3 colors minimum is something that gets bandied around quite a lot, and that basically means, do you have 3 different colors on your model? Are they a nice solid base coat? That's fine, get your basing on your mini, turn up, that is absolutely grand. If you want to dip an army or wash an army or contrast an army, absolutely fine. Whatever is your thing in the hobby, then do it. There still probably will be a minimum standard, and lots of tournaments lift minimum standards, which are extremely forgiving, which is basically, base coat an area, maybe wash it, have your model on basing, have your army match itself, and that's it. If you want to go up to, turn everything up to 11 and have some crazy themed list with a, with a fluff story written on parchment next to it and a working waterfall, and some people have actually done that. I have seen that. Up to you how you want to enjoy your event. And as long as you've put effort in to those minimum standards, you don't have to worry about it whatsoever. Probably the one that people worry about the most and the most unnecessarily, do you have to be a really good gamer to go to a tournament? Now, I think that the word tournament and the fact that there is going to be a first, second, third or whatever, instantly people get completely the wrong idea there. It does not matter whatsoever if your gaming is not A1. I have turned up to events before playing an edition of the game that I've never played, and my first game has been a demo game, basically. Do not worry about that. If you play someone who's way better than you, they're probably going to take it as an opportunity to educate you as you go, and at the end of the game you can always say, so, what would I have done differently? In that situation, your game 2 you may play twice as well as your game 1, and that's absolutely fine. It's not like you have to be some, decorated player to attend any of these, and regardless of where people are, they start out somewhere. So enjoy the journey, take the opportunity to learn. Maybe in the first game you realize, wow, my list, I don't even enjoy playing with this type of list, you can still take it as an opportunity to learn throughout your games. And mostly it's, you know, about playing some different people with some different armies, maybe seeing some cool paint jobs or conversions or stuff like that, and just, you know, broing out with your mates, which is absolutely the most important thing. So for me, for this event, my biggest concern is just the complete lack of time that I have, compounded by a couple of things. You know, maybe I have watched too much football recently. Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Maybe I have ended up stripping Inastra, not getting her done. Who can say where the road goes? We've done quite a lot of Dominion content. I need to get ready in a really short amount of time, so I'm going to have to make some difficult decisions on exactly how I get my army on the table at a standard that I think is acceptable. So, you know, use of the airbrush, clever use of basing, maybe selecting some units that I know aren't the ones that I would like to put in from a gaming or maybe even modeling perspective, but know that I can get done fast because they are, you know, like covered in armor, or, you know, it's a chimera and it's quite easy to stipple some tiger stripes on it or anything like that. I'm going to have to make some decisions here to make sure that I can get it on the table. To make it all worse, my army has a summoning mechanic, so I'm going to have to bring more models than are in my initial starting list. Top tip there, you know, if it's your first event and you're on a deadline, don't do that. Like, really don't do that, because I'm going to be up against it. But I'm going to work it out with those requirements, and hopefully we're going to enjoy the journey of me suffering, which should be no different from my recent painting experiences painting Yunastra anyway, Yundrasta. I won't pronounce her name correctly ever. So something that I really enjoy is the creative process of coming up with a list, and I quite like the constraints of, you know, trying to pick something that works well on the table, as well as looking good, as well as being the type of models that I want to build and paint. So, you know, for that reason, I've already mentioned maybe, you know, picking heavily armored stuff. I like painting armor, you may have noticed recently on the channel. Or other concessions like that, low model counts, take more elite troops. If you are taking more spammy troops, you know, stuff that you're gonna have 60 of on the table or whatever, don't pick hyper detailed models. So, you know, I'm playing Slanesh. Demonettes are quite simple. You know, they've got like claws, skin, armor, hair, that's it. Whereas Blissbarb archers have got like, you know, jewelry, beads, cloth, masks, flesh, bows, quivers, you know, the works. Maybe it's not a good idea for me to put those in, particularly when I'm on a time deadline. So if they are put in, I'm gonna have to be creative. I have got something cool there that I'm waiting on in the post. I won't spoil that yet, but I may have found a way around the Blissbarb Archer dilemma, which basically is I don't want to build or paint those models. Despite having bought them, I opened up the boxes and realized it's not a sensible decision for me, and it'll make me hate my painting life. So I don't have the time, I don't have the inclination. They're straight in the bin, and I'm going to make a sensible decision and move on to something that I'm going to enjoy more, which may well be, you know, painting a few monsters or whatever. Second big consideration is maybe I don't have time to get stuff to, you know, my 100% finish standard for this event, but I can still get something on the table looking really good. So perfect example of that, let's say I'm doing a Keeper Secrets and I want her to fade from pink to purple to orange, have a different colored hair, be on cool basing, have, you know, like animal print fading from one of the colors to the other, you know, where if she's got darker hands and it fades up to a lighter forearm, maybe I want some, you know, like type of animal markings or print doing that. Maybe I don't have time to do the animal markings or print, or I can just leave it to the end, and if I do have time, then I can do it, and if I don't, it'll still be a solid looking army. So I am going to have to make some decisions like that in order to get this done on time. Now, of course, if you are more organized than me or have more time than me, or both, ideally for you, then you won't have any of these things to worry about. But I think often we end up with a deadline to work to, and we're going to have to cut some corners somewhere or make some concessionary decisions. So they are going to be mine primarily in this one, and hopefully I can intelligently make the right decisions to get an army on the table that looks super solid at the very least, and I can then, you know, go and do my highlights or my blending or my fancy stuff or like object source lighting at a later date without having to, you know, paint the model back and start it again or something like that. So I'll have to make some clever decisions there as well. Okay, so we need to make the smallest army possible. Let's take all of the things that I've spoken about and try and roll them up into a list now. I am aware that I have done this at a 500 point level previously on the channel. Obviously, I should have made good with that and, you know, actually started, but I didn't. And this is why we are where we are. I have models that I want to use because they take up points, and I have models that I want to use because they're cool. So I would like Sigvold in there. And then with him, I want to keep her secrets, because I've made that awesome model, and she is overpointed, which is bad, but is good here, because she takes up lots of points. And then for another character that does a little bit of magic in the game and is quite cool, it's the one with this crazy mirror thing going on, which just is an awesome piece. Nightmare to build, absolute nightmare to build, but the contorted epitome is going in there. So units, let's keep this fairly minimal. 1 unit of archers and 2 units of fast cavalry. And then, because we're going to be efficient with our points, 3 models for 280 points that hit pretty hard, and we're just going to duplicate them. All right, 1950 points, so there we go, nicely done. If we wished, we could add in a spell. The endless spells are a really efficient way to take up points without having to paint much, and because it's, you know, not got a face or weapons or anything, it's just kind of like a prop. I don't have any around here, but they're kind of like this actually. You know, they're this type of piece, really fun to paint, quite convenient. I could do a list exactly like that if I wanted. So yeah, there you go, absolute minimum in terms of models. What have we got there? 16, 17, 27, 30 models exactly. Not too bad. Super doable, and a spell, let's say 31. I'm gonna have to paint a summoning pool, so that will literally double the amount I build my summoning pool, but that will keep things at an absolute minimum. Other things we could do is like drop a giant in. Any big monsters or characters tend to be quite expensive for one model, but also at the same time, you know, quite often I want to spend a lot of time making them look really pretty. So yeah, that will do it as far as armies go. I think something around that would be a doable-ish level for the time that I have in mind. Now, obviously we have been here before, but I have to make good on this one because I have to go to an event. So, you know, even if for some reason all my paint explodes, I'm gonna have to find some way to attend this event with an army that I want to play with. So, and I want it to be this one. You know, I've got a vampire backup one and I've got a bone splitters backup one. Actually, quite a lot of backup ones. I have slightly too much Warhammer. But yeah, we're going to get it done. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Do let us know if there's any questions about how I'm approaching this, or tournaments, or anything at all like that. If you want to ask questions about the list, that's absolutely cool. I didn't go into details specifically because we're not a gaming channel, but I do know my gaming. So yeah, pop them below if you would like. And if you have any suggestions or tips for other people on how you approach things fast, or if you think that I could be doing something better to get there quicker, or you know, you've got any tips or tricks, please do pop them below. I'm gonna need all of them. So that would be much appreciated. Anyway, next time we'll be jumping into a bit of the en masse assembly, which should be kind of interesting because I'm gonna go properly anal retentive on that and you know, min-max it efficiency wise. I am a very fastidious assembler and it is awfully slow for me. So I've got to work something out. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like, tune in next time for me probably putting like a giant on the table or something like that and changing all of these plans. But yeah, hopefully it'll be interesting. We will catch you in the next episode. I am very excited about this. This should be the answer to all of my prayers.